a man is not poor without a rupee, but a man is really poor without a dream and without an ambition. So, what is your dream? Yes, whenever you keep your ambition, whenever you make a dream, keep it as the highest ideal. Don't think that my ability is only this much. How can I think of dreaming that big? Don't lower your dreams according to your abilities. The moment you keep a very high ideal in front of you, you will see that automatically your abilities start rising up till your dream. So, yes, keep a high ideal and raise your abilities to reach up to your goal. So, we now start with another very important topic of the year, and that is acoustic neuroma. Yes, acoustic neuroma, as the name, is a total misnomer. Neither is it acoustic, neither is it neuroma. It is arising most commonly from the vestibular nerve, and it is a schwannoma. So the more accurate name is vestibular schwannoma, which means that if in your exam any question is asked as vestibular schwannoma, what is being asked is acoustic neuroma. So yes, acoustic neuroma is the most common benign tumor of the CP angle. If it is of the CP angle, why at all are we doing it here? It is from the CP angle, but does it arise from the CP angle per se? No, it arises from the internal acoustic meatus. So then, where is CP angle in relation to the internal acoustic meatus? So here we are seeing the temporal bone. This here is the temporal bone. We know that. And yes, this is the internal acoustic meatus. So where is the CP angle then? This is the internal acoustic meatus. So yes, we have the midbrain pons medulla. We have the midbrain pons medulla like that, and we have the cerebellar hemispheres. Cerebellar hemispheres. What is the CP angle? The cerebello-pontine angle. Yes, so this here is the CP angle. So yes, now we know that what is the CP angle. So yes, the most common benign tumor of the CP angle, that is the acoustic neuroma. It does not arise from the CP angle. It rises from where? It rises from the internal acoustic meatus. It grows in the internal acoustic meatus, completely fills the internal acoustic meatus, and then it falls into the, it then grows into the CP angle, forming the most common benign tumor of the CP angle. So this is the most common benign tumor of the CP angle, And some important things that we need to know about this tumor is it is benign, but it is locally invasive. Why is it important here? A benign tumor in this area, okay, nothing to worry, but this is locally invasive. We know such important structures are present in this area. So many nerves. We have the brainstem there, we have the cerebellum there. Yes, so we have to always remember that this is benign, but it is locally invasive. It is benign but locally invasive. And yes, like any other tumor, it is seen in elderly. It is seen in elderly, but can it be seen in young also? Yes, if it is seen in young, then we have to investigate this patient for neurofibromatosis type 2. In NF2, we have bilateral acoustic neuromas, whereas in NF1, there are only 5% cases which acoustic neuroma, but they have unilateral acoustic neuroma. Whereas usually in elderly where it is present, which are not cases of NF2, then do you think it is unilateral or bilateral? It is a unilateral tumor. In them, it is a unilateral tumor, and it is a benign, locally invasive tumor. Very sad. But one good thing about this tumor is that this is extremely slow growing tumor. So now, this is extremely slow growing tumor. It is a slow growing tumor. So now you are going to tell me another benign but locally invasive tumor of the year which is extremely slow growing. Tell me. Yes, glomus. Very good. Glomus is also benign, but it is locally invasive and it is very, very slowly growing, and again in elderly. So this is another very similar characteristic tumor. And one thing that is asked in your exam is whether it is capsulated or not capsulated. So according to Shambu latest edition, it is a unencapsulated. So it is not encapsulated. None of the other books mention whether it is capsulated or not capsulated, the higher textbooks, except for Shambu, where it is clearly mentioned that this is an unencapsulated tumor. So now that we know that this tumor arises from the internal acoustic meatus, what do we know then? Yes, we know that if this tumor arises from the internal acoustic meatus, the presenting features will be because of the growth of tumor in the internal acoustic meatus. Later on, it falls into the CP angle. So later on, the features of the tumor will be because of the involvement of the CP angle. Yes. Okay. So now you will tell me the presenting features. Yes. So I will just tell you that this arises from the internal acoustic meatus. So here we have the internal acoustic meatus. Yes. Can you quickly tell me internal acoustic meatus has a transverse bar? Yes, it also has a vertical crest of bone. What is this bar known as? Yes, very good. This is the Bill's bar. Very good. Bill's bar. So this is the anterior part. This is the posterior part. Yes, so can you tell me what the anterior, what lies anteriorly, superiorly? Yes, so we have the facial nerve. The 7th and the 8th cranial nerve, they pass through the internal acoustic meatus. Yes or no? Yes, they go into the ear through the internal acoustic meatus. So 7th is the upper, 8th is the next. So obviously what comes first will be the upper. So facial is superiorly and we have the cochlear, that is inferiorly. And along with that we also have the vestibular nerve. The vestibular nerve again is in two parts, superior vestibular and the inferior vestibular. And along with inferior vestibular we have a branch of inferior vestibular. What is that known as? Yes, that is the cingular nerve. That is the cingular nerve. So yes, so now you are going to tell me what will be the presenting feature. I have told you that it arises from the internal acoustic meatus. Okay. So now you want to know which nerve. In the internal acoustic meatus, we have so many nerves. So which nerve is it arising from? Yes, it is arising most commonly from the vestibular nerve. So it arises most commonly from the vestibular nerve. From the vestibular nerve. And if I ask you vestibular nerve, which vestibular? We have two vestibular, superior vestibular and inferior vestibular. Yes, so earlier it was taken that the most common site of origin is the inferior vestibular. But now the books mention that it is same whether it is superior or inferior vestibular, it is equal incidence. But just in case if in exam still it is asked most common and they are expecting one answer, then it has to be an inferior vestibular. Most commonly from the vestibular nerve. If they ask which one, then you have to go for inferior vestibular nerve. Okay. So now this tumor is arising from the inferior vestibular nerve. So here we have this tumor arising from here. Okay. So what will be the symptom? The presenting symptom will be because of growth of tumor in the internal acoustic meatus. So the presenting symptom will be because of the growth of tumor in the internal acoustic meatus. So now this tumor is growing. So you know what the internal acoustic meatus is. Quickly tell me what is the nerve just very close to it? Yes, the cochlear nerve. So what will happen? There will be compression of cochlear nerve. So because of compression of cochlear nerve, what will be the symptom? Tell me. Cochlear nerve, hearing loss. Okay, what hearing loss? Sensorineural hearing loss. Okay, very good. So because of cochlear nerve, there will be sensorineural hearing loss plus tinnitus. We know any condition, if it leads to any hearing loss, it can lead to tinnitus. So there will be sensorineural hearing loss along with tinnitus. Okay, so what is the other nerve that we are having here? Yes, we have superiorly, we have which nerve? We have the vestibular nerve. So what symptom? Vertigo? Yes or no? Yes, no. Yes, no. In a patient of acoustic neuroma. In spite of the tumor arising from the inferior vestibular nerve, in spite of the tumor compressing the superior vestibular nerve, a patient of acoustic neuroma usually never presents with vertigo. Why never with vertigo? Yes, this is a very, very slow growing tumor. Okay, before that, just tell me that if suppose the vestibular nerve of one side gets destroyed, like in vestibular neuritis, the vestibular nerve of one side has completely got destroyed. Will this patient be vertiginous for life? Will this patient have vertigo for life because now he has only one functional vestibular nerve? Or if suppose we do chemical labyrinthectomy, do we do chemical labyrinthectomy? Yes, we do chemical labyrinthectomy, means we destroy the inner ear. Will this patient be vertiginous for life? No. What happens is that gradually, whenever one ear is destroyed, becomes hypofunctional, what happens is gradually the other ear and the center compensates for that loss. And the patient will have vertigo for some time, but that will be compensated. Now, since this is a very, very slow growing tumor, so as the tumor grows, and it causes vestibular decompensation. At the same time, vestibular compensation is continuing. So that is why, in spite of this tumor arising from the vestibular nerve, in spite of this tumor compressing the vestibular nerve, a patient of acoustic neuroma never presents with frank vertigo. The patient will have mild, subtle imbalance that also usually he does not notice. So because of vestibular nerve, we are seeing that no complaint. So because of vestibular nerve, maybe subtle imbalance, very mild imbalance, mild occasional imbalance. So what is the other nerve that we have here in the vicinity? Yes, we have the facial nerve. Yes, so in any patient of acoustic neuroma, because of compression of facial nerve, what will be the symptom? Will there be facial weakness? Are we expecting facial weakness in this patient? What? Okay, now first tell me this. Facial nerve is a mixed nerve. It is a pure sensory or a pure motor nerve? It's a mixed nerve. Okay, it is mainly sensory or mainly motor? Whenever we think of facial, what comes to our mind? Facial muscles. It is supplying the muscles of the face. So it is mainly a motor nerve. Now, whenever any nerve gets compressed, which is a mixed nerve, the sensory part is very sensitive to compression, whereas the motor part is very resistant to compression. The motor part is very strong. It is very resistant to compression. So because of compression of the motor part, the facial weakness which occurs, this we are not expecting. Why? Because motor part is very resistant to compression. So after a very long time, when the tumor has grown and it is continuously compressing the facial nerve, later on maybe there is facial weakness, facial palsy. But initially, no, it will not be seen. What will be seen will be the symptom because of the compression of the sensory part. So can you tell me any part of the ear where the sensation is given by the facial nerve? Yes, quickly tell me the nerve supply of the pinna. Nerve supply pinna is GOA. Yes, GOAA. And a small part posterior of the external acoustic meatus, and the adjacent part of the canal is also supplied by facial. So yes, when the facial nerve gets compressed, we are not going to find any facial weakness. What we will find is, in this part of the external acoustic meatus, we will find hyperesthesia or anesthesia. And this finding is what is known as, because of the facial nerve, this finding is what is known as Hitzelberger sign. Hitzelberger sign. So what is Hitzelberger sign? This is hyperesthesia. This is a repeated question of your exam. Hypoesthesia or anesthesia in the external acoustic meatus in part supplied by facial. And which is that part? That is the posterior part of the meatus, of the external acoustic meatus. And this is what is the Hitzelberger sign. Now this Hitzelberger sign, I told you, is a very repeatedly asked question of your exam. Yes, but the clinical significance of the Hitzelberger sign is zero. It is negligible. Why? Yes, because this is present in very little. This is present in only around 5 to 10%, never in more than 25%. So it is present in less than 25% of the patient. Now suppose in any patient in less than 25 in whom it is present, will that patient ever be bothered that he has hyperesthesia in this part? He will not be bothered. He will not even notice. So he will never come to you with this complaint that, see, I am not feeling any sensation in this part. You know, but that yes, in any patient where you're suspecting acoustic neuroma, this can be a finding. So you are testing this patient of hyperesthesia in this part. So now, do you exactly also know which part to test? Do you exactly know which part is supplied by the facial? Because where the facial supplies, it is accompanied by the 10th nerve, by the Arnold's nerve, by the vagus. So we also exactly do not know which exact part to test for hyperesthesia. And how do we test for hyperesthesia? Yes, with the sharp instrument, we just touch the sensation. Touch for sensation. So little here and little there. If we are exactly not in the part that is supplied by facial, we will not get the correct answer. So which means that most of the patients, 75% of the patients will not be present. Even in the patients where it is present, it is very difficult to test and the results are usually inconclusive. Which means that this involvement of the facial nerve is clinically totally of no significance. So now let us come back to the internal acoustic meatus, and what we are seeing here, that in the internal acoustic meatus we have so many nerves, yes, but what we are seeing is that because of compression of the vestibular nerve, we have no symptom. Yes, because of compression of the facial nerve, we have literally no symptom. We have literally no significant, no important sign. So, in spite of this tumor arising from the internal acoustic meatus, where we have so many nerves, the presenting feature is only one, and that is because of compression of the cochlear nerve. And what is that? That is sensorineural hearing loss and tinnitus. Yes or no? So, what is the age group of this patient? Yes, this is elderly. So then what's new? Elderly with sensorineural hearing loss. That is very normal, no? Any elderly with sensorineural hearing loss can be presbycusis, yes or no? That this elderly is not a presbycusis. This is not age-related hearing loss. This is acoustic neuroma. In which elderly will you think? Yes, presbycusis is always bilateral. So, any elderly with unilateral sensorineural hearing loss and tinnitus, we have to rule out acoustic neuroma. And we know that till the tumor fills the internal acoustic meatus, the symptom will be only one, and that will be unilateral sensorineural hearing loss and tinnitus. Is that clear? Okay, so this is how a patient will present, and this is when we have to think that this can be a patient of acoustic neuroma whenever it is an elderly with unilateral sensorineural hearing loss and tinnitus. So now the internal acoustic meatus has completely got filled of the tumor. Now the tumor will grow into the CP angle. So the next symptoms will be because of the growth of tumor in the CP angle. So now when the tumor grows into the CP angle, do we know what the structures are in the CP angle? Yes, we know what the structures are. Yes, we have here the Meckel's cave. What is present in the Meckel's cave? Yes, we have the fifth nerve here. Passing through the apex, we have the sixth nerve. Yes or no? Yes, and we know that what are the nerves here? Exiting through the jugular foramen, yes, we have the 9th, we have the 10th, we have the 11th cranial nerve. So now it is entering into an area which is surrounded all around by important nerves. So, and this is locally invasive, yes. So now what will be when the tumor grows into the CP angle? What will be the next and the earliest nerve to be involved here? Yes, so here just close to it is the fifth nerve. So in the CP angle, the earliest nerve, the next nerve will be involved, the fifth nerve. The fifth nerve. What is the fifth nerve? Yes, the trigeminal nerve. So now tell me that if the trigeminal nerve is involved, which will be the symptom? What will you look for in the patient? What is the trigeminal nerve for? Fifth nerve is for? Yes, ophthalmic, maxillary, mandibular. That is the sensory nerve supply of the face. So because of that, there will be paresthesia. Because of this, there will be paresthesia. Paresthesia of face. Yes, you can. There will be hyperesthesia of the eye, the ophthalmic. How can you test the ophthalmic nerve? How do we test? With some reflex? Yes, the corneal reflex. So when you test the corneal reflex, because of involvement of the trigeminal nerve, the corneal reflex will be absent. So absent corneal reflex. Now, do we know that any reflex is a reflex arc? It has an afferent also and it has an efferent also. Have you heard of stapedial reflex? Stapedial reflex, what was the afferent? Afferent was eighth nerve. Eighth nerve, only when the auditory pathway senses that there is a very loud sound, it will damage the inner ear, then the efferent gets activated, that's the seventh nerve, yes. So this corneal reflex is also a reflex. Reflex means it will have an afferent also, it will have an efferent also. Can you tell me what the afferent is and what the efferent is? Yes, when you're testing for the sensation, what is the afferent? Yes, that is the fifth nerve. And what is the efferent? What happens as a reflex? Is the eyes closed. So that is the seventh nerve. So the afferent is the fifth and the efferent is the seventh. So if in a patient of acoustic neuroma, the corneal reflex is absent, it is because of involvement of which nerve? It is because of the involvement of the fifth nerve, or it is because of the involvement of the seventh nerve. Now this you will tell me. Fifth nerve or seventh nerve? Think and tell me. Fifth nerve? Yes, very good, fifth nerve. Why not the seventh nerve? Yes, for the corneal reflex to go, because of the seventh nerve, the facial muscles have to go, and the motor part of the facial nerve is resistant to compression for a very, very, very long time. So yes, so the earliest nerve that will be involved, the earliest nerve that will be involved will be the fifth nerve. And because of fifth nerve, what will be the finding? That will be absence of corneal reflex, paresthesia of the face. Okay, can there be any other nerve involvement? Yes, there can be involvement of sixth nerve. Sixth nerve, because of sixth nerve, what will happen? Yes, there will be diplopia. What does sixth nerve supply? Sixth nerve is LR6, lateral rectus, LR6. Yes, so there will be diplopia. Yes, has been asked in a question in your exam that diplopia is seen in a patient of acoustic neuroma because of compression of sixth nerve. Has been again asked, the sixth nerve is compressed by which pole of the tumor of the acoustic neuroma? Yes, which pole? Upper pole, lower pole? Upper pole. Fifth nerve is involved by involvement of which which pole of the tumor? Yes, again the upper pole of the tumor. And the lower pole of the tumor will involve which nerves? Yes, the 9th, 10th, 11th cranial nerve. So the upper pole will involve the 5th and the 6th nerve, and the lower pole will involve the 9th, 10th, 11th cranial nerves. 9th and 11th cranial nerves. Later on, what will happen? There will be cerebellar compression. There will be brainstem compression. Patient will go into coma. Patient will die. All that is not important. What is important is to be able to diagnose the patient when he has first come to you in the ENT OPD. Yes, so in which patient will you think that this is a patient of acoustic neuroma? Yes, any elderly with unilateral sensorineural hearing loss and tinnitus. Okay, so the earliest symptom will be unilateral sensorineural hearing loss and tinnitus. And yes, also remember this sensorineural hearing loss is usually gradually progressive because this is a slow growing tumor. So as it grows, it causes hearing loss. But in 5 to 10% of the cases, it can lead to compression of the vascular supply of the artery, which is also entering into the inner ear through the internal acoustic meatus, and it can lead to a sudden ischemia leading to sudden sensorineural hearing loss. So in 5 to 10% of the cases, there can be a sudden sensorineural hearing loss. And when we did sudden sensorineural hearing loss, I told you this, that if there is a sudden sensorineural hearing loss in any elderly, always rule out acoustic neuroma. Though it is very, very rare, only in 5 to 10% cases it will present like that. But we know that this tumor is occupying such an important area. So we cannot miss it. Yes, so even if it is 5 to 10% cases, we have to keep that in mind and we have to rule out whenever a patient presents like that. So yes, elderly has come to you, unilateral sensorineural hearing loss, you know this cannot be presbycusis, rule out acoustic neuroma. So in the OPD itself, what is the next test that you do? Yes, the test that will tell you about the trigeminal nerve involvement. Yes, that will be, yes, the corneal reflex. So which do you think is the earliest nerve involved? Yes, so the earliest nerve involved is the 8th nerve. Okay, what is the next common? Will it be 7th or will it be 5th? 7th or 5th? Yes, what we saw was that if the 7th nerve is involved, it is involved in only 25%, which means that in 75% of the cases it is not involved. And even if it is involved, the presentation, the symptoms, the signs also very difficult to elicit. So what will be the next? Yes, the next most common involvement that we will see of is of the 5th nerve. So the second is the 5th nerve. 5th nerve, and because of 5th nerve will be the earliest sign, and that is loss of corneal reflex. Loss of corneal reflex. That will be the earliest sign. That will also be the earliest ocular sign. Yes, earliest ocular sign is also same. It is loss of corneal reflex. Yes, what is the other ocular sign that we can have? Can we have diplopia? Yes, we can have diplopia, and that is because of which nerve? That is because of 6th nerve. So diplopia can occur because of 6th nerve involvement. Okay, so if the corneal reflex is absent, it is because of which nerve? 5th nerve or 7th nerve? 5th or 7th? Yes, it is because of the 5th nerve. Because of the 5th nerve. So all these are questions that are asked in your exam. So what do we know of acoustic neuroma as of now? Yes, we know that this tumor arises from the internal acoustic meatus, then it falls into the CP angle. So because of growth of tumor in the meatus, we have only one symptom, and that is because of involvement of cochlear nerve, that is unilateral sensorineural hearing loss and tinnitus. When it grows into the CP angle, the earliest nerve that is involved will give the earliest sign, and that is the 5th nerve involvement, that is corneal reflex. And if the corneal reflex is absent, what does it indicate? It indicates that the tumor is in the CP angle. Yes or no? Yes. So only when the tumor is in the CP angle, it will involve the fifth nerve, which means that if the fifth nerve is involved, it will also tell you about the size of the tumor. So if the fifth nerve is involved, the corneal reflex is absent, it means that the tumor is at least 2.5 to 3 centimeters in size. So absence of corneal reflex means that the fifth nerve is involved. That means at least 2.5 to 3 centimeters in size. So all this you can come to know in the OPD itself. So you are in the OPD. Here is elderly who has come to you with unilateral sensorineural hearing loss and tinnitus. You know he should be investigated for acoustic neuroma. You make him sit down. You test for the corneal reflex. Absent. Okay. So now your suspicion is very high. This can be acoustic neuroma. Now you want to confirm that yes, this is acoustic neuroma. So yes, you take out your tuning fork. Okay, Renis. What will be Renis? Renis, if it is acoustic neuroma, Renis will be positive or negative? Renis is positive in which two conditions? Normal and sensorineural hearing loss. So here Renis will be positive. Weber's, if it is a right acoustic neuroma, Weber's will be towards which side? Right side or left side? Yes, we know that Weber's is testing sensorineural pathway. It will be heard better in the better sensorineural pathway. So that is towards the opposite side. So Weber's will be towards the opposite side. Towards the normal ear. ABC, what is ABC? It's a test for bone conduction, absolute bone conduction. Bone conduction means sensorineural pathway. So in sensorineural hearing loss, ABC will be less. It will be shortened. And Schaubeck and ABC is same for sensorineural hearing loss. So Schaubeck also will be shortened. Now usually we do not do ABC, Schaubeck in all the patients. But why I am repeating it again and again is for your revision. Yes, ABC, Schaubeck, Renis, Weber's, all these are asked very, very commonly in your exam. So you should be absolutely thorough with it. So now with tuning fork test, you have confirmed that this is a sensorineural hearing loss and that is in 1 year, it is unilateral and that is elderly, your suspicion has increased. So now you will confirm it by audiogram whether it is sensorineural hearing loss or not. So yes, when you get the audiogram done, what will be the finding? Yes, sensorineural hearing loss. How do you know whether there will be AB gap or not? Yes, if it is a sensorineural hearing loss, there is no AB gap. So there will be no AB gap. Yes, so that will tell you it is sensorineural hearing loss. So what will impedance? What is impedance? Impedance test is what? Impedance test is tympanometry and stapedial reflex. Do we do that for sensorineural hearing loss? Impedance? Tympanometry? Tympanometry is a test to find out condition of middle ear, right? Here, will we do it? Not the tympanometry part, but what part of impedance? Stapedial reflex. Yes, stapedial reflex is a very, very important test. It is a objective test. Patient's cooperation is not required. You just put the probe into the ear and immediately you get the result in the form of a graph. Yes, so what will be the stapedial reflex? Yes, this is a sensory neural. This is a sensory or a neural, acoustic neuroma nerve. This is neural. So what happens to stapedial reflex in neural pathologies? Yes, because of nerve fatigue. In neural pathology, there is nerve fatigue. So if in any person, if I am giving a sound, a loud sound, a 70 decibel sound continuously for 10 seconds, the stapedial reflex will be present continuously till I am giving the loud sound. But in people in whom there is retrocochlear deafness, in people in whom there is a nerve deafness like acoustic neuroma, what will happen? There will be nerve fatigue. Because of which, what will happen is, you give the sound, the nerve will appreciate the sound, so there will be stapedial reflex activated. You are giving a loud sound, there will be a stapedial reflex initially. What will happen later on? Because of nerve fatigue, the nerves now will not sense the sound. So if they will not sense the sound, will there be reflex anymore? No, they are not sensing the sound only. So no reflex. So what will happen is that the stapedial reflex will decay very quickly. It will not be present till the time you are giving the sound. So the stapedial reflex decay will be present. What will be recruitment? Recruitment, is it a feature of cochlear or retrocochlear? Yes, again, all this I put here for your revision. Recruitment is a feature of cochlear deafness. So in retrocochlear, recruitment is absent. What is recruitment? Recruitment is intolerance to loud sounds. That was seen in cochlear deafness in Meniere's. When you speak to the patient less loudly, he will not hear. But when you are loud, he will tell, why are you shouting? That is intolerance to loud sounds. And that is what we test by CC. CC, we give short increment sounds, 1 decibel, and that the patient will 1 decibel increment, which we are normally not able to appreciate, that the patient appreciates when he has a recruitment, when he has cochlear deafness. So in retrocochlear, CC score will not be high. It will be very less. It will be 0 to 20%. Yes, discrimination score. What is discrimination score? Yes, the patient is able to discriminate. It is a part of speech audiometry, whereby our speech, by telling some words, pin, thin, rin, sin, we are seeing the ability of the patient to discriminate between the words. Discrimination is a feature of nerves. It will be very poor if there is a nerve pathology, if it is a neural defect, if it is a acoustic neuroma. So discrimination score will be very poor. Very poor. And this discrimination score we also plot in the form of a graph in the speech audiogram, where what we see in retrocochlear nerve deafness is that when we increase at lower loudness, there is a nerve deafness, so patient is not appreciating the sound. You increase the level of loudness. When you increase the level of loudness, what happens is patient starts identifying the sounds. Patient starts appreciating, discriminating the words properly. But now what happens is when you further increase the loudness, in retrocochlear hearing loss, in nerve deafness, what happens is nerves get fatigued. So after some time, when you further increasing the loudness, you are expecting that now I am giving more and more loud sounds. A patient should be able to appreciate more words better, more clarity, more discrimination. But what will happen when you increase the level of loudness further? Because of nerve fatigue, now whatever he was able to discriminate, that also he is not able to discriminate. So the number of words that he is able to discriminate properly will increase till it reaches a peak. And after that, even if you increase the loudness further, then the number of words that he's identifying clearly will go down. This is what is known as rollover phenomena. And yes, this is the question of your exam. Rollover phenomena is present in acoustic neuroma, yes or no? Yes, it is a feature of nerve deafness. So rollover will be present. Okay, now all this was something which was theoretical. Practically speaking, whenever any patient you are suspecting to be acoustic neuroma, elderly, unilateral hearing loss, corneal reflex absent, even if corneal reflex not absent, unilateral sensorineural hearing loss in elderly, suspecting acoustic neuroma, we are seeing that by tuning fork, we immediately in the OPD itself, we will know it is a sensorineural hearing loss. Audiogram will show it is unilateral sensorineural hearing loss. Yes, so the next test that we go for is yes, it is BERA. And that is the best audiometric test for acoustic neuroma. This is the best audiometric test. Audiometric test. Yes, so can you tell me quickly that this is the BERA image that you are seeing? Quickly, you will first tell me what are the waves of BERA. Yes, you will have to do this work. Only then we will see what we see in acoustic neuroma. Yes, quickly tell me wave 1. Yes, wave 1. We know the auditory pathway. It is cochlear nerve, cochlear nuclei, then SLIM, SLIM. Yes, so here cochlear nerve will give 2. 1 and 2 is both from the cochlear nerve. 1 is from the distal part of the cochlear nerve, 2 is from the proximal part that is closer to the brainstem. 3 is from the cochlear nuclei. 4 is from superior complex. 5 is from lateral lemniscus. So 5 is lateral lemniscus, L for lateral lemniscus, L for largest. And this 5 is the largest wave. Okay, so now we know what the waves are, and we know from where the acoustic neuroma rises. It rises from where? From the internal acoustic meatus. So can you tell me it coincides with which wave? With which wave? Yes, wave 2. It is rising from the nerve, and it is closer to the CP angle, closer to the not in the ear, not in the inner ear. Yes, it is in the internal acoustic meatus. So that is the level of wave 2. Okay, so now we know this much. So what changes are we expecting in BERA? Yes, what will happen because of the tumor here in wave 2, wave 1 will appear normally. Now, because of the tumor there, what will happen is the progression of the wave because of the tumor will be delayed. And ultimately, if wave 5 appears at 5 milliseconds, this will appear late, more than 5 milliseconds, which means that the latency between wave 1 and 5 will increase. Yes. Now also what can happen is sometimes because of the tumor compressing the vascular supply, Also of the inner ear, the wave 1 is also not present. Because of the tumor in the meatus that is compressing the vascular supply, wave 1 also, the inner ear getting generated from the inner ear, that is also not present. So now you are getting only one wave, and that is wave 5. This is the largest wave. This is usually the last to appear in any pathology, last to disappear in any pathology. So now we have only one wave, that is wave 5. How by wave 5 itself can you find out whether the patient has a caustic neuroma or not? We can. How? Yes, the latency of wave 5 in right ear and left ear, latency of wave 1 in right ear, left ear, latency of each of the waves in both the ears is the same. So which means that if wave 5 appears in right ear at 5 milliseconds, in the left ear also it should appear at 5 milliseconds. But if there's a tumor in the right ear, what will happen? Wave 5 will appear a little late. How much late is significant? As minor as 0.2 milliseconds. Can you see how specific this test is? So if the latency of wave 5 is different in both the ears by 0.2 milliseconds, that is suggestive of a caustic neuroma. And what will we call that test as? Interaural latency difference. In both the ears, we are seeing the latency difference of wave 5. So if there is a interaural latency difference of wave, again this has been a question of your exam, of wave 5 of more than 0.2 milliseconds, this is suggestive of a caustic neuroma, and this is the best finding. This is the best finding of a caustic neuroma, followed by this is second best. This is second best. So you, by BERA, you will get an idea that yes, this is a caustic neuroma. This is an intracranial tumor. Can BERA be the best investigation? Okay, you are thinking, I just told you it is the best. It is the best audiometric test. Overall, can BERA be the best investigation for an intracranial tumor? For any intracranial tumor, what is the best investigation? Yes, MRI. So the best investigation is MRI. Best investigation is a gadolinium enhanced MRI. And what are you seeing? Are you seeing something in the MRI? Can you notice here this tumor is arising from the internal acoustic meatus like this? Yes, and it is growing into the CP angle. Yes, this is typically known as the ice cream cone appearance. This is known as ice cream cone appearance. Now the MRI not only confirms that this is a caustic neuroma, it tells you about the size, and it also tells you whether it is cystic or not. How is that important, whether it is cystic or not? Yes, usually we know that these tumors are very slow growing. Yes, but a rare tumor can grow suddenly. And which one is that rare tumor? Which is cystic inside. So because of the cyst inside, there can be a sudden enlargement of the cyst inside, and that can lead to a sudden growth of the tumor. So that will change the management of the patient if we know it is a cystic. Because in cystic tumors, we do not take chances, we do not wait and watch. We always remove, even if it's a very small tumor, and if we see it is cystic, then we remove it. Yes, so and that we can appreciate by doing a MRI. Though confirmation we get only after we have removed the tumor and we get a histopathology. The histopathology of this acoustic neuroma, this shows two types of cells. One is Antony A and Antony B. So if it is Antony A is very tightly packed. Whereas Antony B, just see Antony B, it is loose arrangement. There is loose arrangement, and also there are cystic areas, which means that if there is Antony type B, it means that there are cystic areas. This will have a bad prognosis. So what is the use but of finding out it is bad prognosis only if we have removed the tumor and got a histopathology done? We should be able to know before by whether it is cystic or not, so that we can decide that yes, we are going to remove it. So that we can come to know by MRI. So MRI is the best investigation for acoustic neuroma. And not only can we find out whether it is cystic or not before operating the patient, we can also exactly find out whether it is arising from the superior or the inferior vestibular nerve. How can we find that out? Do you know of any test Which does the superior or the inferior vestibular nerve? Yes, by VEMP. VEMP. What is VEMP? Vestibular evoked myogenic potential. Vestibular evoked myogenic potential. So it is a muscle potential evoked by the vestibular system. Yes, we know that the utricle and saccule is present in the vestibule, where we have the connection of the oval window on which is present the footplate of stapes. So whenever there is a loud sound, normally in us also, whenever there is a sudden loud sound, we have this response. Yes, so what it does it go by? It goes from the saccule through the inferior vestibular nerve to the same side as for saccule as for sternocleidomastoid. And there is this relaxation of sternocleidomastoid. And from the utricle is supplied by which nerve? It is by the superior vestibular nerve. It goes to the eyes also close, yes, when we have this response. So it goes to the eye of the opposite side. So then we can see by this test which is coming abnormal. So if it's a tumor of the superior vestibular nerve, we will get an abnormality in this ocular reflex. If it is an abnormality of the inferior vestibular nerve, it is a tumor arising from the inferior vestibular nerve, this relaxation potential of the sternocleidomastoid will be abnormal. So VEMP will also tell you whether it is arising from the superior or inferior vestibular nerve. And now you have confirmed that this is a tumor which is arising from whichever vestibular nerve. It is acoustic neuroma. You are seeing the size of the tumor. How will you manage this tumor? Yes. So if it is elderly, we know usually it is an elderly only, na? So then, yes, if it is elderly and the elderly is you are finding that there is a very, very slow growing tumor in the internal acoustic meatus only, and what you are seeing is that this tumor is not a cystic tumor, then in that case, since it is a very slow growing tumor, we can go for wait and watch. We can go for wait and watch. Now, if the tumor is a little large, but it is still less than 3 centimeters in size, then you can go for stereotactic radiosurgery, that is gamma knife. Stereotactic radiosurgery, that is gamma knife. And yes, this does not destroy the tumor. This further retards the growth of the tumor. This is a radiation that is focused on the tumor. This is not some surgery. This is known as gamma knife therapy, but this is you are focusing the radiation on the tumor. It further retards the growth of the tumor. So in rest all the cases which are more than 3 centimeters, you can go for surgery. Plus in all cystic tumors, you have to excise the tumor. You cannot leave it behind. There can be a sudden growth of tumor, and we know we have so many important structures all around this tumor. So, in a patient of acoustic neuroma, in neurofibromatosis type 2, do we have bilateral? Yes. Okay, so the patient is young. So, we have removed the tumor, bilateral acoustic neuromas, operated for the same. Rehabilitation of hearing post-surgery should be by. So, you have operated the acoustic neuroma, and yes, there is both the nerves have got damaged, cochlear nerves, and there is bilateral hearing loss. How will you give rehabilitation of hearing post-surgery? It is bilateral condition, so you have to give. If it is unilateral, it is okay, one side is okay. But it is bilateral, you have to give some hearing rehabilitation. You cannot make the patient deaf after surgery. Can we go for a hearing aid? Hearing aid, what it will do? It will just amplify the sound and it will send it to the nerve. The nerve is not there. What is the defect? The defect is in the nerve. Can we go for a cochlear implant? Cochlear implant replaces what? Organ of Corti. Nerve has to be functional there. It replaces the organ of Corti. So organ of Corti, if it is defective, we can replace with the help of cochlear implant. Here the defect is beyond that. It is in the nerve. So how will you manage that? That is by ABI. That is by auditory brainstem implant. What is ABI? We will do in detail in hearing rehabilitation. Auditory brainstem implant. I'm just tell you what this is. Brainstem implant. Yes, this is a very similar external component. Is very similar to the cochlear implant. What we do here, but the electrodes in cochlear implant, where do we pass? We pass the electrodes in cochlear implant through the middle ear, through the round window into the scala tympani. Here, what we are doing, we are replacing the nerve and we are directly stimulating the cochlear nuclei. So here we are placing the implant so that it can directly stimulate the cochlear nuclei. Where are we placing it? We are placing it in the lateral recess of fourth ventricle. Again, this has been a question of your exam, of fourth ventricle. Okay, now so you are going to sit straight. Yes, keep your pens down. Okay, tell me, you are sitting in the ENT OPD. Here is a patient who has come to you and you are suspecting acoustic neuroma. So what was the complaint in the patient that made you think that let me rule out acoustic neuroma? Unilateral, sensorineural hearing loss and tinnitus. Okay. Why? Because in elderly, if presbycusis should be bilateral. Okay. So now in the OPD itself, you made the patient sit down and you tested for the coronary reflex. If the coronary reflex is absent in this patient, it signifies involvement of which nerve? Fifth nerve or seventh nerve or both? Yes, it is because of involvement of fifth nerve. Fifth nerve is involved in which area? In the internal acoustic meatus or in the CP angle? Yes, in the CP angle, by the upper pole of the tumor or the lower pole of the tumor? By the upper pole of the tumor. Yes, which is the earliest nerve to be involved in acoustic neuroma? Fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. Eighth, followed by next is fifth nerve, which is the earliest ocular sign. Again, the fifth nerve. In a patient of acoustic neuroma, can there be diplopia? Yes or no? Yes, because of which nerve? Sixth nerve. Sixth nerve is involved by the upper or the lower pole of the tumor? Upper pole of the tumor. Lower pole of the tumor involves which cranial nerves? 9th, 10th, 11th cranial nerve. Okay, so in this patient, the coronary reflex is also absent. Does that tell you the size of the tumor? Yes, how much? At least 2.5 to 3 centimeters in size. So now you want to confirm that this is acoustic neuroma. Which is the best audiometric test to tell you that this is acoustic neuroma? Bera. Yes, what on Bera is diagnostic that this is acoustic neuroma? Increase interoral latency of wave 5. Which is the largest wave of Bera? Wave 5. Wave 5 stands for double L. L for largest, L for double L. Lateral lemniscus. Okay, so wave 5, interoral latency difference of wave 5 of more than how much? 0.2 millimeters. Which is the best investigation for acoustic neuroma? Confirmatory investigation for acoustic neuroma? Yes, MRI. Gadolinium enhanced MRI. Which has better prognosis, Antony A or Antony B? Better is Antony A. Worst prognosis is Antony B. Which is cystic, Antony A or B? Antony B is cystic. And repeatedly histopathological finding along with this presentation, elderly with unilateral sensorineural hearing loss has been given to you. Yes, so what is that histopathology? Yes, that is the Antony A or Antony B, and the diagnosis of that patient was acoustic neuroma. So you have confirmed that this is acoustic neuroma. What will be your mode of management? Yes, when can you go for a stereotactic radiosurgery? Less than 3 centimeters. When will you never go for a conservative management? Wait and watch. Yes, if the tumor is cystic. In a patient of neurofibromatosis type 2 operated for bilateral acoustic neuroma, rehabilitation of hearing should be by ABI, auditory brainstem implant, that you place where? Lateral recess of the fourth ventricle.